Welcome back to the deep dive. So you've probably seen them online, right? These huge tents that inflate super fast. They call it camping evolution. Today we're looking at Vevor Inflatable Tents. Our mission really is to figure out, is this genuinely useful tech or maybe just peak laziness or maybe a risky buy?
Yeah, and Vevor has quite a range. We're talking everything from maybe $200 for a 5-person tent, all the way up to these giant 16-person glamping setups for like $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
The main hook, obviously, is swapping out those fiddly poles for airbeams. The promise of a really quick setup.
And that promise is tempting because, well, the technology does work. We know that. You see high-end brands like Van Gogh or Outwell. They've used inflatable tents for years now, successfully. And what's interesting, you mentioned this before we started, is that airbeams can actually handle wind better sometimes.
That's right. It sounds counterintuitive, but because they flex, instead of snapping like a rigid pole might, they can perform surprisingly well in high winds. So yeah, the tech itself is proven. It can even be superior in some ways.
Okay, so if the tech is sound and potentially better, why are these Vevor ones so, well, cheap compared to the big names? Where's the catch?
And that's exactly where the user reviews get really revealing. It boils down to, let's call it, brutal inconsistency in manufacturing. The core idea is fine, but getting a good one reviewer put it perfectly, said it operates like a slot machine.
A slot machine, wow. Okay, so you might get lucky or you might get a dud. And what about the practical side? They market them as easy solo setup, but I saw comments about the weight.
Yeah, that's the other consistent thing. Forget easy solo setup for most people. These things are heavy. Users consistently describe them as surprisingly heavy. The bag itself can be 50 pounds, sometimes more.
50 pounds. Okay, so even if it inflates in 15 minutes, getting it out of the car and into position, that's not a one-person job, realistically.
Exactly. That weight factor kind of kills the whole solo convenience angle. It's strictly car camping here, maybe glamping. And about that setup time, yes, once you know what you're doing, it can be quick. But the first time, the instructions are often lacking. One person said 15 minutes on the second try after a real struggle the first time. Bit of a learning curve.
Okay, so a heavy tent with a learning curve and potentially dodgy quality control. Let's say you get it set up, though. How does it actually handle, weather, wind, rain?
Actually, pretty well overall in wind and general rain, according to most reviews. They seem sturdy once inflated. But there's a specific issue. Rain getting in through the zippers, especially if the little zipper covers aren't positioned just right.
So it's not the main fabric failing, it's the details, like the zipper design or closure.
Precisely. It points towards maybe a design flaw or just less careful finishing around those entry points, rather than the material itself being bad. It's a budget cut you can feel.
And speaking of things that need to work perfectly, the inflation itself. Air beams need to hold air, right? What about the pumps and valves?
Yeah, that's another variable. Sometimes you get a decent hand pump, sometimes a weak electric one. Sometimes the valves themselves might be leaky from the start. It's high stakes because even a tiny leak turns your sturdy shelter into a slowly deflating disappointment, as one user put it.
Slowly deflating disappointment. Not ideal. And what about temperature? Air pressure changes with heat, doesn't it?
Hugely important. Midday sun heats the air inside those beams. Pressure goes way up. Pro tents often have pressure relief valves built in specifically for this to automatically let out excess pressure.
And the budget Vevor ones
Oh,
don't have those.
Generally, no, not at this price point. So you're relying on the seams and the material itself to handle that increased stress from thermal expansion. Given the whole slot machine quality control thing, that feels like a pretty big gamble, doesn't it? Overstressing potentially weak seams.
Yeah, that sounds risky. Okay, so summing this up, we've got potential convenience, lots of space, but also significant weight, inconsistent quality, and potential issues with zippers and air pressure management. Who is this tent actually for then?
Well, it seems the ideal user is probably families doing car camping, maybe setting up for a weekend, not moving much. People who want that big interior space and the idea of quick setup, and where the weight isn't a major obstacle because you're unloading right by the car. Glamping fits too.
But definitely not for backpackers. Absolutely not. The weight alone rules that out.
No way. And honestly, if you need something absolutely reliable, say in challenging conditions or remote areas, the quality gamble's probably too high. You might get a fantastic bargain, or you might get a headache, or worse, a failure when you need it. Traditional tents still win for guaranteed reliability.
So there you have it. Hopefully this deep dive helps you cut through the hype if you've been looking at these. You know the trade-offs now.
And it leaves you with a thought, maybe. These tents are all about convenience,
Yeah.
But it makes you ask, how much reliability are you willing to trade away for that convenience,
Yeah.
especially when it's your shelter potentially on the line? Something to keep in mind perhaps for other gear choices too.